Chapter 1068. Zhou Xuanji taught Zhou Tanhua the Constitution-defying creation scripture. Even though Zhou Tanhua had heard the ancestral voice many times, he still needed time. During the teaching process, Zhou Xuanji did not remain idle. He sent out countless out-of-soul clones to every corner of the Sword Emperor Divine Court to gather information. He had a feeling that other than Qin Zun, there were probably other existences that would target the Sword Emperor Divine Court. According to what Qin Zun said, this guy was ordered by someone and had no choice. What kind of existence could order Qin Zun around? A conspiracy was approaching Zhou Xuanji. Perhaps it wasn't just directed at him. The four overlords of Cardinal Heaven, Hunyuan Heaven, Zhongji and Gujuejiu were also forced into hiding. It didn't seem to be connected, but in reality, it was already falling apart. No matter who planned all of this, they would become Zhou Xuanji's future enemy. Time passed year by year. This year, one of Zhou Xuanji's avatars sensed that something was wrong. It was a ball of black qi, and an eye was hidden within it. It seemed to be looking for something, wandering aimlessly at the edge of the North Boundless. The eye in the black qi suddenly looked at Zhou Xuanji's avatar. Zhou Xuanji asked, "Who are you? What is his motive?" "Of the 9 ancient aspects, you are one of them." An illusory voice came from the black gas. 9 ancient phases? What was that? Zhou Xuanji immediately reached out to grab the eye in the black qi. However, as soon as his hand touched the black gas, his avatar immediately dissipated. Returning to his original body, Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes and frowned. "Strange, what is that?" Zhou Xuanji muttered to himself. Zhou Tanhua was still in a state of enlightenment. While imparting the unconstitutional creation scripture, he sent his consciousness into the emperor's door. "Hey, do you know what the 9 ancient phases are?" "9 ancient phases? Where did you hear that?" The primogenitor spirit's voice rang out, sounding extremely nervous. From the looks of it, the 9 ancient aspects were incredible. Zhou Xuanji did not hide anything and told him what happened. "Oh no, no wonder you've encountered all this. So you've already been chosen?" The founder spirit said with a trembling voice. Zhou Xuanji asked closely, "What do you mean? Can you not keep me in suspense?" The founder lord's spirit sighed. "It's a long story. A long time ago, before the boundless universe was formed, I created everything. However, I never expected that the creatures I created would be stronger than me." Zhou Xuanji was stunned. Well, there was an existence even more powerful than the spirit of the primogenitor? To be precise, I didn't create everything. It was the constitution-defying scripture of creation and the path of annihilation that made me who I am. Without these two supreme Taoists, I would just be a speck of dust in the primordial chaos. I used them to create living beings and reproduce the consciousness of these two supreme Taoists. They were the most powerful 9 of the first batch of creatures. From the moment their consciousnesses were born, they knew of each other's existence, and so they named themselves the 9 ancient aspects. The primogenitor Lord Spirit said faintly. His ancient voice pulled Zhou Xuanji into a time before time was born. "It's precisely because they're too powerful that they don't allow other existences to be as powerful as them. That's why they're fighting each other." A war that swept through the Kunlun Origin Court broke out. In that war, many innocent people were sacrificed. In the end, I had no choice but to act. I suppressed them, but I also aroused their resentment. They feel that everything I have now is because of them. I owe them, so I repay their kindness with enmity. They refused to accept the seal and chose to dissipate. The wills of the 9 ancient phases spread to every corner of the Kunlun Origin Court. Even I couldn't detect their existence because the scripture of creation and the path of extinction that I was looking for were them. Countless years later, the 9 ancient aspects were like a curse. From time to time, they would reincarnate and continue fighting. The last time the 9 ancient aspects appeared was during the era of the primeval sovereign. The primeval sovereign single-handedly suppressed the 9 ancient aspects, causing the boundless universe to collapse. He had no choice but to open up a new universe, using his power as a foundation to transform it into the great Tao, protecting countless mortals. However, this also caused the eternal God race to be trapped in the cracks, leaving behind new karma. At this point, the Founder Lord's spirit stopped. Zhou Xuanji continued to ask, "Where did that I come from?" It was normal for him to be chosen as one of the 9 ancient aspects. After all, he cultivated the constitution-defying creation scripture and the Tao of annihilation. However, he was very curious about who the other 8 people were. He must have also mastered the constitution-defying creation scripture or the Tao of annihilation. In that case, the number of people could be counted on one hand. Zhou Xuanji calculated and realized that he could not gather 9 people. "That eye is my eye." The Founder Lord's spirit sighed. Zhou Xuanji was stunned. "You have seen the primeval sovereign's inner demon before. Anyone who enters the eternal God gate will give birth to an absolutely evil version of themselves. I have been there before, and so has the primeval sovereign." The Founder Lord's spirit continued to explain. Zhou Xuanji frowned and asked, "In that case, the eternal God gate might have countless inner demons, and there might even be some who are incredibly powerful? If that was the case, wouldn't the eternal God gate be invincible? Once the eternal God gate was opened, countless inner demons would rush out, enough to destroy the boundless universe. Yes. All beings who have stepped into the eternal realm have gone to the eternal God gate. There are too many fortuitous encounters inside, and they are irresistibly attractive to all beings. No one can destroy the eternal God gate, and they can only allow it to accumulate inner demons." The Founder Lord's spirit's words were filled with fear. Even someone as powerful as the Founder Lord feared the eternal God gate. Zhou Xuanji asked, "Do you have a way to resolve it?" "You can only wait for your fate to come. If you cannot continue living, everything else is meaningless. That's it. I'm tired." The Founder Lord's spirit sighed. This past made him feel very uncomfortable, and he did not want to talk about it anymore. Zhou Xuanji did not stop him. He started thinking about it himself. In other words, he would have to face the 9 ancient phase tribulations. For the other 8, mastering the constitution-defying creation scripture or the Tao of extermination, could it be? Zhou Xuanji suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. He looked up at Zhou Tanhua and hesitated. Once Zhou Tanhua mastered the constitution-defying creation scripture, would he also be selected as one of the 9 ancient phases? The Founder Lord's spirit said reincarnation, not will selection. In other words, Zhou Xuanji was recognized as one of the 9 ancient phases since birth. Could it be that the remaining 8 are reincarnators like me? But why is it getting more and more complicated the more I think about it? Zhou Xuanji took a deep breath, trying not to think too much. He began to focus on preaching to Zhou Tanhua. About 100 years later, Zhou Tanhua finally mastered the constitution-defying creation scripture. His aura had transformed. He suddenly opened his eyes, which turned purple. A terrifying aura erupted. If it weren't for the absolute time realm, many innocent creatures would have been killed by his pressure. Zhou Xuanji stood aside and observed quietly. He wanted to see this kid's aptitude and when he would have the hope to step into the eternal realm. Chapter 1069. Zhou Tanhua felt the power of the constitution-defying creation scripture, and an excited smile appeared on his face. This power, it really feels different. He had become stronger. It was far more powerful than before. He turned to look at Zhou Xuanji and said emotionally, "Thank you, Father." He wanted to continue speaking but was interrupted by Zhou Xuanji. "Don't be in such a hurry to thank me. There are some things I need to tell you. You are now independent, so you should know these things." Zhou Xuanji said seriously. His emotions were complicated. He was looking forward to it, but at the same time, he felt a little guilty. He had originally wanted to protect his children, but now, he was urging his son to grow up. Zhou Xuanji told Zhou Tanhua everything that had happened before, including the 9 ancient aspects. Zhou Tanhua was dumbfounded. He didn't expect that the seemingly peaceful boundless universe was actually hiding so many dangers. Furthermore, it was far more dangerous than he had imagined. Even eternal existences who had transcended the undying realm would find it difficult to protect themselves. "Father, you're one of the 9 ancient aspects. Isn't this going to be very dangerous?" Is that why you taught me the Constitution-defying Creation Sutra so that I can deal with these things with peace of mind? Zhou Tanhua asked with a frown. He gritted his teeth and said, I'll help you hand over the divine court to Tianyuan. After hearing Zhou Xuanji's words, he understood why Zhou Xuanji helped him to his current position. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said, There's no need for that. Haven't I, your father, encountered many sure-death situations before? Although the enemy is getting stronger, I'm also getting stronger. Just lead the celestial court to become stronger. Only then will I be able to fight against my destiny with peace of mind. Zhou Tanhua wanted to say something but hesitated. Zhou Xuanji continued, You have learned the Constitution-defying Creation Sutra. You might encounter the same situation. Never let your guard down. He waved his right hand and took Zhou Tanhua out of the realm of absolute time. After returning to Zhou Tanhua's palace, Zhou Tanhua looked around. Even though he had learned the Constitution-defying Creation Sutra, he could not see through Zhou Xuanji's move at all. How high had his father's realm reached? Don't think too much about it. When you've completely mastered the Constitution-defying Creation Sutra, I'll teach you another supreme Tao. Zhou Xuanji patted Zhou Tanhua's shoulder and said with a chuckle. He had high expectations for Zhou Tanhua. With that, he disappeared on the spot. Zhou Tanhua sat down and pondered. I have to become stronger. He muttered to himself, his eyes filled with determination. While Zhou Xuanji was waiting in the Sword Emperor Divine Court, a rumor spread without any warning. Eternal Gate of God. It was said that as long as one stepped into the Eternal God Gate, they would obtain an unparalleled cultivation. Qin Zun was originally immortal, but because he had gone to the Eternal God Gate, he was strong enough to challenge the endless overlords. This rumor caused everyone to seethe with excitement. Who didn't want to become stronger? Who doesn't want to be like Qin Zun, able to call the wind and summon the rain, majestic and awe-inspiring? But in the boundless universe, one's talent determined one's level. All existences that were able to attain the peak were extraordinary geniuses that stood above the trillions of living beings. For a time, a wave of people searching for the Eternal Gate of God rose from all directions. The Sword Emperor Divine Court had always sent people to guard the lawless region between the northern boundless region and the southern boundless region. However, when the members of the Sword Emperor Divine Court heard the rumors, they couldn't help but be moved. It didn't take long for someone to break into the Eternal Gate of God. With the first person, there was a second. By the time the news reached Zhou Tanhua's ears, things had already gone out of control. What? Isn't it forbidden to get close? Zhou Tanhua shouted angrily, his voice resounding throughout the hall. All the higher-ups of the Sword Emperor Divine Court in the hall had ugly expressions on their faces. Yuan Qing gnashed his teeth and said, It's already out of control. Endless creatures from the other three sides are constantly coming to look for the Eternal God Gate. Those guys have all gone crazy. Zhou Tanhua's face changed from anger. Zhou Xuanji had told him how terrifying the Eternal God Gate was. But, is there really an opportunity hidden in the Eternal God Gate? A court sovereign couldn't help but ask. Obviously, he was also very tempted. Zhou Tanhua coldly snorted and said, Yes, there is an opportunity. Do you want to see Qin Zun's end? Qin Zun was indeed awe-inspiring. But he had already fallen. However, in the eyes of all living beings, his fall was because he was too arrogant. This had nothing to do with the Eternal God Gate. Zhou Tanhua glanced around and guessed everyone's thoughts. He thought about it and decided to reveal the secret of the Eternal God Gate. When he finished speaking, everyone's faces were filled with terror. Once they entered the Eternal God Gate, all living beings would have an inner demon? Even someone as strong as Ancient Sovereign had an inner demon? Qin Zun was forced to challenge the endless overlords. The more they thought about it, the more afraid they became. Jin Cheng gnashed his teeth and said, Not good. Could that rumor have been spread by the Eternal God Gate? Even if they aren't from the Eternal Divine Gate, they are definitely up to no good. Everyone's expression changed drastically. If that was really the case, then it would be a calamity for the entire boundless universe. What are we waiting for? Hurry up and contact the other two endless overlords. Rainbow Chin Saint Monarch said hurriedly. He hadn't expected that the true danger had only just arrived. The boundless universe was truly plagued with calamities. No, Gu Juejiao and Zhong Ji have disappeared. How long has it been since you heard anything about them? Yuan Qing shook his head. Previously, they thought that he was in seclusion, but now that they thought about it, it made them shudder. What should we do now? Someone asked. Yuan Cheng's eyes flickered and he said, we can only release this news. Given the current situation, the more he tried to stop them, the more impulsive they would be. Zhou Tanhua thought for a while and finally nodded in agreement. While everyone was going crazy over the Eternal God Gate, the Sword Emperor Divine Court revealed the truth about the Eternal God Gate. Everyone was in an uproar. Countless living beings were terrified. However, there were even more creatures who didn't believe this, feeling that the Sword Emperor Divine Court wanted to monopolize it. Zhou Xuanji heard about this and did not know whether to laugh or cry. He did not stop them. He did not have the ability to stop them. He was communicating with the Ancestor Lord's spirit in the Stars Palace. This is the general trend, a calamity of the boundless universe. All you can do is wait. Back then, Gu Zun also faced a calamity like this. Before him, the boundless universe had been destroyed, but there were always survivors of the Eternal God clan. You don't have to worry too much, just do your best. Just do your best, the Ancestor Lord's spirit said calmly. Zhou Xuanji sighed. Only eternal gods can survive? Yes, work harder. Let your descendants also become eternal gods, the Ancestor Lord's spirit said with a smile. Ever since this guy revealed the reason for the 9 ancient phases, he seemed to have let himself go. He often teased about these great calamities and was not worried at all. I want to break through to the second level of eternal will. Can you give me some guidance? Zhou Xuanji asked. I can't. I'm just a trace of will. I don't have complete memories, the Ancestor Lord's spirit replied. Why did Zhou Xuanji sound like he was acting shamelessly? As if the world had nothing to do with him. Zhou Xuanji put him back into the Master Emperor Gate, too lazy to look at him. At this moment, an aura came. Zhou Xuanji, I know you are inside. I want to see you. The owner of the voice was the Ancestor Buddha. Chapter 1070. Come in. Zhou Xuanji said. With a thought, the doors of the Stars Hall opened. The ancestral Buddha followed suit. Seeing how anxious he was, Zhou Xuanji could not help but feel curious. Did something happen to this guy? Usually, the ancestral Buddha would stay in his lair to study the Constitution-defying Creation Sutra and rarely come out. The Ancestor Buddha said excitedly, the Eternal God Gate has appeared. Should we go and do something? What are you doing? Be careful not to get into trouble. Zhou Xuanji said unpleasantly before explaining the dangers of the Eternal God Gate. After the Ancestor Buddha heard this, he said in disdain, Who told you all this? He must be up to something. Since the Eternal God Gate is able to create the inner demons of everyone who enters, it means that it isn't targeting anyone. Qin Zun killing you might have something to do with one of your enemies. Even after entering the Eternal God Gate, his hatred for you hasn't diminished. The Eternal Divine Sect has already duplicated so many mental demons. Do they still need us? Even if we don't go, we won't be able to destroy the Eternal God Gate. If we go, we can strengthen ourselves and prevent others from surpassing us. You didn't go because you were afraid of the trouble that the Eternal God Gate might bring. Now that all the other living beings have gone and are getting stronger and stronger, you've been stagnant. When the time comes, let alone the Eternal God Gate, even your enemies won't let you off. The ancestral Buddha's words caused Zhou Xuanji to sink into deep thought. It seemed like he was looking ahead and not caring about the consequences, but there was actually a great reason behind it. That was right. What was he worried about? Since ancient times, there had been many experts who had entered the Eternal God Gate. Gu Zun had also been there, leaving his name in history. The progenitor master had also been there. What was he afraid of? Now, the tide of living beings surging into the Eternal God Gate had already erupted, and there was no way to stop it. Zhou Xuanji was moved. Should he go to the Eternal God Gate to take a look? If the other 2 overlord forces went, then the Sword Emperor Divine Court might fall behind. He couldn't just sit and wait for death. Zhou Xuanji immediately summoned Zhou Tanhua. Soon, Zhou Tanhua entered the hall. Zhou Tanhua nodded to the ancestor Buddha before looking at Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji said, "After the ancestral Buddha's persuasion, I plan to go to the Eternal God Gate to take a look. When the time comes, I will leave behind an outer soul clone. If there are no major problems, I will let the Sword Emperor Divine Court go as well." "Why did you suddenly change your mind?" Zhou Tanhua asked in surprise. Could it be that even his father had been bewitched? Zhou Xuanji shook his head and smiled. This could be considered his mistake. He repeated the ancestral Buddha's words. Zhou Tanhua was also persuaded. The reason was simple. That was the general trend. They could not be saviors. It would be fine if there were dangers within the Eternal Divine Gate, but he was afraid that there would really be opportunities. Although the Sword Emperor Divine Court dominated the Northern Boundless and Southern Boundless, if other factions rose up, it would not be easy to control them. "Yes, father. You must be careful." Zhou Tanhua hesitated for a moment before nodding. The ancestral Buddha urged, "Hurry up, unstoppable fire god has already left." "Where did he go? Didn't he tell me to stay away from the Eternal God Gate?" Zhou Xuanji frowned. He was afraid before, but after seeing so many living beings go, he let down his guard. The ancestor Buddha answered. Having heard this, Zhou Xuanji's face twitched. His fear of the Eternal Divine Gate started from the fire god. "This dog for..." Zhou Xuanji immediately sent out an out-of-soul clone and left with the ancestor Buddha. Under the spiritless state, the two of them advanced at an extremely fast speed. The ancestor Buddha asked, "Have you not broken through for a long time?" Zhou Xuanji glanced at him and said, "It hasn't been that long. I'm not even old enough for you to break through a small stage." The ancestor Buddha glared at him and said, "I mean relative to your speed of improvement." Zhou Xuanji fell silent. Indeed, ever since he broke through the first level of eternal will, his cultivation had not improved. Previously, he relied on Sovereign Qin's exterminating Tao to become stronger. Without external factors, he could no longer find a way to become stronger. This was also the reason why he wanted to venture into the impassable region. As one of the 9 ancient phases, the Eternal Divine Gate opened at this time to create a battlefield for you. If you don't enter, you will be eliminated sooner or later, the ancestor Buddha said meaningfully. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, "Let's wait and see after we enter the Eternal Divine Gate. Maybe what awaits us is a nightmare." The ancestor Buddha shook his head. He was not worried about this. He had divined his own fortune. This trip was a blessing. The impassable region. In the dark void, countless living beings were scattered around. At the center of all living beings, there was a gigantic gate that was radiating boundless radiance. It was dazzling and beautiful, as though it was the entrance to the ultimate paradise. All living beings nearby looked at it with yearning and fear. The Eternal Divine Gate. Although countless living beings had already entered the Eternal Divine Gate, more of them were hesitant. No one knew what was hidden within the Eternal Divine Gate. At this moment, a silhouette dashed toward them. He emanated a powerful aura and was enveloped in a red radiance like a god. He charged into the Eternal Divine Gate without any fear. "That's Gu Tongxian from West Infinity. Gu Tongxian is here too. I heard that he's Gu Juejiu's most valued disciple. Gu Juejiu has disappeared, and now Gu Tongxian has charged into the Eternal Divine Gate. This means that the Divine Gate is indeed a serendipity. Let's go. Let's charge in together." The living beings discussed among themselves. Immediately, many of them flew into the Eternal Divine Gate. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji and the ancestor Buddha came too. Zhou Xuanji, who was in the Eternal Realm, could charge into the Eternal Divine Gate in soulless mode without being discovered by the living beings. Once he entered the Eternal Divine Gate, Zhou Xuanji's soulless mode was forcefully dispelled. A vast radiance knocked Zhou Xuanji and the ancestor Buddha apart. This power! Zhou Xuanji was shocked. He wanted to open his eyes but could not. He felt that he was restrained by a formless power and could not move. After a long while, he opened his eyes slowly and found himself standing on a cliff. He was not injured, and the eternal will was not damaged either. This is... Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes and looked around. Below the cliff was a boundless desert that stretched for tens of thousands of miles. Numerous lone peaks stood on the desert, looking desolate and desolate. Zhou Xuanji tried to fly but realized that there seemed to be some kind of rule that prevented him from doing so. He could only move forward on foot. Even if he leaped, the pressure would increase tremendously once he flew into the air. He was curious. What kind of world is this? He leaped off the cliff and landed in the desert. Then he began walking forward. Since he was here, he should observe the situation first. It was said that there were countless serendipity within the eternal divine gate. He wanted to see if it was true. From what he saw, the world within the eternal divine gate was not that evil. The soil in the desert was soft, as though it could collapse at any time. Not only that, but the spiritual qi here was very special. It was more profound and dense than the great Tao in the boundless universe. He felt that he could absorb the spiritual qi with just a breath. It was refreshing. Could this be serendipity? Chapter 1071. Zhou Xuanji walked on the desert while absorbing the mystical spiritual qi here. Although the spiritual qi could not increase his cultivation much for someone who had reached the eternal realm, it was still very novel to him. He wanted to know where the spiritual qi came from and where was the end of the desert. He walked on. After walking for about 2 hours, he stopped suddenly. A silhouette appeared in front of him. It was a cultivator in a green robe. He was sitting on a small reef hill. Looking closely, the cultivator's face was strange. Half of his face was black while the other half was dark green. 2 beams of light stood beside him. Judging from their appearance, one was a saber and the other was a sword. Zhou Xuanji could not see through him and was curious. Did he encounter an eternal cultivator the moment he came in? What business do you have? If you don't want to make enemies, please take a detour. The cultivator in a green robe said coldly. Zhou Xuanji asked with a smile, I'm new here and am curious about the eternal divine gate. I hope you can give me some pointers. Having heard that, the cultivator opened his eyes suddenly. His gaze fell on Zhou Xuanji and asked in confusion, You just came in? Seems like you are very powerful. The eternal divine gate is divided into countless realms. Different cultivations enter different realms. Those who come here have at least level 2 eternal will. I've been cultivating here for 500 million years, and it's my first time meeting someone who just entered the eternal divine gate, the cultivator said meaningfully. The azure-robed cultivator said meaningfully. He was interested in Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji asked, Is the eternal divine gate full of serendipity? Of course not. There are dangers too. Generally speaking, it's a sanctum full of serendipity. How do I leave the eternal divine gate? It's difficult, but it depends on serendipity. The cultivator's answer made Zhou Xuanji fall into deep thought. Is it so difficult to leave the eternal divine gate? Try to become more powerful after you come in. Why do you want to enter if you always want to leave? Don't you know that only those who will die can enter the eternal divine gate? The cultivator shook his head as he sized up Zhou Xuanji. His tone was a little mocking. He thought that Zhou Xuanji was someone powerful, but he wanted to leave the moment he came in. What a coward! Zhou Xuanji understood what he meant but did not mind. He continued to ask, Is the spiritual qi here the main serendipity? Although the spiritual qi of the eternal divine gate could strengthen the eternal will, it was too weak. Zhou Xuanji could not imagine how long it would take for him to break through to the second level of eternal will. Naturally, there are other opportunities. However, cultivating in peace is the safest and most effective way. If you want to strengthen your eternal will in the outside world, it will be very difficult, almost impossible, the azure-robed Taoist replied. Then, he closed his eyes and continued cultivating. Evidently, his interest in Zhou Xuanji had disappeared. Zhou Xuanji smiled and walked in another direction, no longer chatting with the azure-robed cultivator. The green-robed Taoist probably had nothing to worry about outside. There was no point in talking to such a person for too long. For an ascetic like this, A few 100 million years was nothing. However, to someone like Zhou Xuanji, who felt that 100 years was too long, there was no common ground between people of different daos. Zhou Xuanji sped up and traveled 1,000 kilometers with each step. Although he couldn't fly, he could still use the eternal will to increase his speed. Rather than painstakingly cultivating, it was better to search for opportunities. Otherwise, there would be no point in coming here. Zhou Xuanji began to search everywhere he could. As he advanced, his eternal will swept out in all directions. 6 hours later, he suddenly found a treasure. This treasure was buried in the sand and rocks, and only half of it was exposed. Zhou Xuanji took it out. It was a golden short sword. The blade was as wide as a palm, and the hilt was engraved with veins that looked like leaves. He began to observe it carefully and infused his eternal will into the golden short sword. Boom! His eternal will exploded, and a vast and boundless world appeared in front of him. A boundless blue ocean appeared in his field of vision. There were raging waves, but there was no violent storm. Zhou Xuanji was shocked because the seawater was made of spiritual qi. Spiritual qi ocean. He checked repeatedly. After making sure that there were no problems, he began absorbing the spiritual ocean in the short sword. Rather than absorbing, it was more like swallowing. Boundless spiritual qi seawater flowed into his eternal will, which began to grow stronger. I knew it. This was the correct way to open the eternal divine gate. Zhou Xuanji was very cautious. He kept an eye out in case someone ambushed him. He swallowed the spiritual ocean quickly. In less than half an hour, he was done. His will of eternity had become much stronger. He opened his eyes and threw away the golden short sword. He then continued to search for other treasures. There must be more than one. But it was strange. Why didn't the green-robed cultivator come to collect them? Did he not know, or had he reached a bottleneck? Zhou Xuanji did not think too much. Anyway, he was sure that it would help him. A few years passed quickly. There were more artifacts with spiritual oceans than Zhou Xuanji had imagined. His eternal will had almost doubled in power over the past few years. Such an improvement could only be described as a major breakthrough. He was very excited and continued to search tirelessly. This day, Zhou Xuanji picked up another golden bell. Just when he picked it up, streaks of afterimages dashed toward him from all directions and quickly surrounded him. He raised his head and saw 9 mysterious beings in golden armor. There were no living beings under the golden armor. They were like ghosts. One of the golden-armored beings said with a deep voice, "How dare you? You dare to take His Majesty's treasures. Come with us or we will kill you on the spot." His Majesty's treasures? Zhou Xuanji frowned. He suddenly realized why the green-robed cultivator did not pick up these treasures. They already belonged to someone. That person must be ridiculously powerful to be able to dominate an entire realm. At least the green-robed cultivator did not dare to offend him. Zhou Xuanji's eyes sparkled as he asked, "May I ask who is your Majesty?" "Supreme Firmament," one of the golden-armored beings said with a deep voice. "Supreme Firmament." Zhou Xuanji's expression changed. Isn't this the most powerful genius that the founding Lord's spirit sighed in amazement? He was an eternal god since his birth. His starting point was the end that all living beings could not reach. Such a being was still alive? Zhou Xuanji had a bad feeling. If he went to meet Supreme Firmament, he might not have a good ending. But if he did not go, would Supreme Firmament deal with him personally? "Let's go." Facing their urging, Zhou Xuanji could only compromise for now. He sensed the aura of the 9 golden-armored beings and analyzed their strength. Very powerful. Damn. Are all the eternal gods sect such monsters? No wonder Sovereign Qin was so arrogant after he left. After seeing these monsters, the powerful cultivators in the endless universe were nothing. Zhou Xuanji began to think about how to escape. He was not sure if he could force his way through. "What punishment will I receive?" he asked. If he was to be executed, there was no need to bring him to meet Supreme Firmament. "Massage His Majesty's legs for 100,000 years, one of the golden-armored beings snorted coldly. Chapter 1072. Leg massaging for 100,000 years? Zhou Xuanji was stunned. Such a punishment. This was a little unexpected. Humph. Don't think it's too much. Previously, there was a guy who massaged His Majesty's shoulders for 1,000,000 years and collapsed immediately. A golden-armored creature snorted coldly. His tone was full of disdain. Zhou Xuanji was speechless. It sounded serious, but no matter how he thought about it, it was absurd. Could it be that there were other tortures during the shoulder and leg massaging process? Zhou Xuanji followed them while thinking about countermeasures. No way. I can't just sit still. No matter what, I have to try to resist. Zhou Xuanji suddenly entered godless state. His eternal will erupted as he quickly turned around and fled. How dare you! Courting death. Catch him. Don't let him escape. The golden-armored creatures roared furiously. They immediately chased after Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji looked back with a frown. These guys also know godless state? In the absolute pale space, the 9 golden-armored creatures chased after Zhou Xuanji. Fortunately, the gap between them and Zhou Xuanji was widening. Although they also knew godless state, Zhou Xuanji had reached the eternal realm in godless state. How could they catch up with him? Unless they had more than one eternal will. After traveling for a while, Zhou Xuanji successfully shook them off. Just in case, he continued to move forward. After flying for 2 hours, he finally exited godless state. He landed in a desert. There was an oasis in front of him. The trees were tall and lush. Before he even got close, he could already smell the fragrance of flowers that seeped into his heart. He scanned the oasis with his eternal will. After confirming that there was no danger in the oasis, he stepped forward. After entering the oasis, he saw a lake in the middle of the forest. The water was blue and the surface of the lake was glowing. At first glance, it looked like the surface of the sea. Zhou Xuanji thought about it and decided to send an order to Zhou Tanhua, telling him to let people enter the Eternal God Gate. Although he had just encountered danger, he had indeed become stronger. After that, he began to search in the forest. What if there is a golden artifact here? After searching for a while, a voice came, "What are you looking for?" Zhou Xuanji looked back in shock and saw the white dragon creature he had met in the absolute time, blinking at him. He was stunned and asked in surprise, "Why are you here?" Wasn't the white dragon creature looking for a sword? Why did he come back? "There's the aura of that sword here. I'm looking for them," the white dragon creature replied, appearing very innocent. "Wait, didn't you come out from the Eternal God Gate? How come I didn't sense it before?" Zhou Xuanji asked. Could it be that the sword had just entered the Eternal Gate of God? "No, I came from another door," the white dragon answered. "There was another door?" The white dragon moved closer to him, sniffed, and said with a frown, "Your aura has changed. It's becoming similar to this door." Zhou Xuanji frowned. What did that mean? Could it be that the spirit sees within the artifacts would assimilate him and the Eternal Gate of God? Zhou Xuanji suddenly became alert. Should he continue to absorb it? Not bad. At least you've become stronger. Keep going, the white dragon said. Zhou Xuanji looked up at it and asked, "If I continue to grow stronger like this, will it be bad for me?" The white dragon shook its head and said, "How can that be? This is the gate of life, a place that allows living beings to become stronger." Life gate? What do you mean? Could it be that the gate you came from represents the opposite of life, the gate of death? Zhou Xuanji asked. The white dragon did not reply but turned around and left. Zhou Xuanji noticed that it could levitate in the air and soar freely. It did not seem to be affected by the flight restriction here. He immediately caught up with it and asked, "You haven't answered me." "I'm not sure either. My memory is very blurry. I want to find that sword. Are you willing to help me?" The white dragon turned around and asked. "Of course." Zhou Xuanji nodded. Now that he had offended boundless heaven, he would only be safe if he followed the white dragon. "But you must help me collect some golden enchanted artifacts. Among them are spirit chi seeds that can help me grow stronger," Zhou Xuanji said. "Okay." The white dragon agreed immediately. So easy to talk to? Zhou Xuanji felt strange in his heart. The white dragon seemed to like him a lot and was very obedient to him. Was it pretending, or was there another reason? At this moment, The white dragon opened its mouth suddenly. Its cheeks expanded like a balloon being inflated. Roar! It let out a long roar that shook the heavens and earth. The surrounding forest shook violently. Leaves danced in the wind, and the lake water churned. Swoosh! 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 Streaks of golden light rose up from the lake in an extremely domineering manner. Zhou Xuanji looked at them and was stunned. They were all golden artifacts, just like the ones he encountered before. They were emanating faint spiritual chi ripples. So many golden artifacts were hidden at the bottom of the lake? All of them are for you. Hurry up, I still need to find that sword. The white dragon spoke and urged Zhou Xuanji to absorb the golden artifacts quickly. Zhou Xuanji did not waste any time. He waved his right hand and pulled all the golden artifacts before him. He began absorbing them one by one. Half an hour later, Zhou Xuanji's eternal will grew tremendously. He felt that he was a few times more powerful than when he first arrived. He was fascinated by this feeling that he had not felt for a long time. Under the white dragon's urging, he did not have time to stop and comprehend. He immediately set off. Along the way, Zhou Xuanji asked the white dragon how much it knew about the eternal God Gate. The white dragon replied that it had been to the 6 realms. It was the most powerful realm it had ever been to so far. It said that it sensed an extremely powerful aura that even it did not dare to provoke. Zhou Xuanji was even more shocked. He did not expect the white dragon to be afraid of supreme heaven. What should I do? He told the white dragon about what happened before. It's okay. If we can't win, we can run, the white dragon replied without a care. How do we leave this realm? Zhou Xuanji asked curiously. It's simple. Just jump out. Just jump like that? Zhou Xuanji was speechless. He felt that the white dragon was acting cool. After that, under the white dragon's lead, they collected all the golden artifacts and searched for that sword. Until now, Zhou Xuanji still did not know where the sword came from or what it looked like. The white dragon could not explain it either. Zhou Xuanji could become more powerful anyway, so he did not bother to ask. In the blink of an eye, half a year passed quickly. Zhou Xuanji obtained a great artifact almost every day, strengthening his eternal will. But as time passed, the white dragon grew more and more impatient. It wanted to leave this realm and head to a higher realm. Zhou Xuanji could not even defeat Supreme Heaven. Wouldn't it be seeking death if he went to a higher realm? So, he began to persuade the white dragon. Maybe the sword was in the lower realm. After all, the white dragon sensed that the sword was in the boundless universe, which meant that the sword had just entered the eternal God Gate. The nearest living beings would not be too powerful. Chapter 1073. After Zhou Xuanji told the white dragon about his idea, the white dragon felt that it made sense and was prepared to bring him down to the lower realm. At this moment, boom, rumble, lightning gathered in the blue sky. A violent gale blew, and a powerful aura enveloped the entire world. Zhou Xuanji frowned. This aura was so powerful. He had become much more powerful, but facing this aura he felt like a mortal facing a god. Supreme Heaven. Other than him, no one else could give Zhou Xuanji such a horrifying pressure. Humph. Do you think you can swallow this emperor's treasure just because you want to? No matter how much you swallow, you must make it up to me. An extremely majestic voice came. It was deafening, and the thunderclouds billowed violently, as though the sky would collapse at any moment. Zhou Xuanji quickly looked at the white dragon and asked, "Why aren't you jumping?" The white dragon replied, "He has sealed the space. We can't jump." "What should we do?" "Don't worry. I'm very powerful." "That's good." Zhou Xuanji heaved a long sigh. It's good that the white dragon is confident. At this moment, the thunderclouds parted and a giant golden hand descended from the sky. It was as massive as the creation god mountain. The white dragon soared up and tried to break through the giant golden hand. Zhou Xuanji looked at it expectantly. This was the most powerful genius in history that even the ancestor master was impressed with. The white dragon had a mysterious background. If it could really resist Supreme Heaven, it would be extremely powerful. The white dragon sped up suddenly. Streaks of white silk wrapped around its body, and a majestic aura burst out, causing Zhou Xuanji's robe to flutter violently. He opened his eyes wide. So powerful. He did not expect the white dragon to be so powerful. It was completely different from its usual adorable self. Under Zhou Xuanji's expectant gaze, the white dragon crashed into the giant golden hand's palm. Shortly after, the giant golden hand closed its palm and retracted back into the clouds. Everything returned to normal. Zhou Xuanji was stunned. What happened? The white dragon was captured? What the hell? Zhou Xuanji was stunned. This was not how things were developing. Few come to. A cold snort came from supreme heaven as a giant black hand descended from the sky. It was so fast that even Zhou Xuanji, who was in the eternal realm, couldn't react in time. There was a loud bang. Zhou Xuanji's eternal will was heavily injured, and he instantly fell unconscious. Zhou Xuanji dreamed. He dreamed that he was running back and forth between the two doors, trying to find a way out, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't escape. Going round and round, it was always the two doors that surrounded him. He woke up with a start. The white dragon flew in front of him, causing him to shrink back in fear. Memories flooded his mind, and his consciousness began to clear. He was captured by the boundless heavens? He immediately stood up and slapped his surroundings. They were above the clouds. This cloud was dozens of feet wide, and there were countless golden lightning bolts flashing on its edges. Zhou Xuanji looked back and saw a giant on the horizon. He was incredibly majestic and was lying on the trunk of a towering tree. That person was wearing a loose blue robe with cloud patterns. His waist was covered by the sea of clouds, and the area above his neck was also covered by the higher clouds. It was impossible to estimate how gigantic his body was, let alone the giant tree he was lying on. Just one trunk of the giant tree was as big as his body. Supreme Heaven? Zhou Xuanji frowned. He looked closer and realized that Supreme Heaven's arms were densely packed with living beings. They were massaging Supreme Heaven. Is there really such a punishment? Zhou Xuanji looked back at the white dragon and said bitterly, "Didn't you say that with you around, there's no need to panic?" The white dragon blinked and said, "Aren't you still alive?" Zhou Xuanji was speechless. At this moment, a golden armored creature flew over. He stopped outside the clouds and said coldly, "The two of you coveted His Majesty's artifacts. Your punishment is to massage His Majesty's shoulders for 30 million years. 30 million years? Zhou Xuanji and the white dragon opened their eyes wide. Crazy. He could not help but ask, "Can your Majesty sit for 30 million years without moving? Isn't he afraid of hemorrhoids?" "What is hemorrhoid?" the golden armored creature asked back. Zhou Xuanji fell silent. "Prepare yourselves. 3 days later, you will receive your punishment," the golden armored creature said before leaving. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared without a trace. Zhou Xuanji sighed. He turned around to look at Supreme Heaven's majestic body and began to think of a way to escape. The white dragon came up to him and said, "Don't panic. I'm very powerful. I will help you escape." Zhou Xuanji rolled his eyes. He thought about it and sent his consciousness into the Master Emperor's door. "Ancestor Lord Spirit, come out quickly. I've been captured by Supreme Heaven," Zhou Xuanji urged in his mind. A while later, the Ancestor Lord Spirit's voice came, "Supreme Heaven? He's still alive?" "He's the tyrant of the eternal God Gate. He can do whatever he wants in this realm," Zhou Xuanji replied helplessly. Before he came, he never thought that he would end up like this. The Ancestor Lord's spirit floated out immediately. The white dragon was startled. He looked at the Ancestor Lord's spirit with his eyes wide open. The Ancestor Lord's spirit looked at Supreme Heaven far away and sighed in amazement. "It's him indeed. I didn't expect him to be alive and well. Seems like I've underestimated the eternal God Gate. This should be the Life Gate. If it's the Death Gate, your situation will be even worse." Life Gate and Death Gate. There were two eternal God Gates of opposite ends indeed. Zhou Xuanji thought in silence. "Take out the Master Emperor's door later. He will let you go once he sees it," the Ancestor Lord Spirit said before returning to Zhou Xuanji's body. "What's your relationship?" Zhou Xuanji asked in his heart. "He's my little disciple," the Ancestor said. Teacher and disciple. No wonder. That's right. With Supreme Heaven's talent, only the Ancestor Lord was qualified to teach him. Zhou Xuanji thought as he sat down on the ground. He took out the Master Emperor's door and placed it aside, waiting for Supreme Heaven to discover it. The white dragon opened its eyes wide. It circled around the Master Emperor's door and cried out in fear, "Why do you have this door?" Zhou Xuanji glanced at it and asked, "What's wrong?" "This is the Death Gate." "Oh?" Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes wide and jumped up in fright. The white dragon trembled and said, "As long as one enters the Death Gate, one's inner demon will be duplicated. That soul just now should be the inner demon." Having heard this, Zhou Xuanji's hairs stood on end. The Ancestor Lord's spirit in his body was not the Ancestor Lord's soul. It was formed by the Ancestor Lord's inner demon? If that was the case, then everything before, just thinking about it made Zhou Xuanji feel a chill down his spine. He hurriedly asked in his heart, "Is what it said true?" The Ancestor Lord's spirit did not reply. Zhou Xuanji's heart was in a mess, and he fell into deep thought. Fortunately, he had suppressed the Ancestor Lord's spirit in the Master Emperor's door, or else the Ancestor Lord's spirit might possess him. It was very possible. What should he do now? How should he deal with the Master Emperor's door? Chapter 1074. After knowing that the Master Emperor door might be the eternal divine gate, Zhou Xuanji panicked. He suddenly did not know how to deal with the Master Emperor door. He began to guess the Ancestor Lord's purpose. The white dragon circled around him and stared at the Death Gate. Although it's a death gate, it does not have any death chi. It's like an ordinary gate. Could it be sealed? With this, Zhou Xuanji looked at it and asked, "You mean that this death gate is safe for now? Then why are you making such a big fuss?" Zhou Xuanji was furious. He suddenly felt that the white dragon was pretending to be innocent. It must be scheming. It was teasing him on purpose. "I was shocked too," the white dragon said pitifully. Zhou Xuanji threw it a stare and asked, "Then what do you think I should do with it?" "I'm not sure either. Why don't you throw it away?" The white dragon replied. "So casual?" Zhou Xuanji frowned. This guy was unreliable indeed. He looked at the Supreme Heaven Dome in the distance and thought, should I just give the main monarch door to the Supreme Heaven Dome? What if this was the Ancestor Lord's scheme? It might want to take this opportunity to possess Supreme Heaven. With Supreme Heaven's physical body, the Ancestor Lord's spirit could rule over all living beings. Or was he going to tell the Supreme Heavens the truth? Zhou Xuanji sat down and began to think. The white dragon did not disturb him but wandered around as though it was looking for something. For the next day, Zhou Xuanji did not speak. There was no night here. Other than them, Zhou Xuanji could not see any other imprisoned beings. The other beings were massaging Supreme Heaven's legs and shoulders. Silence. No one finished their words. The world was in deathly silence. The next day. "Supreme Heaven!" Zhou Xuanji cried out involuntarily. "Do you remember the Master Emperor door?" His voice resounded across the sea of clouds. After he spoke, the world fell into deathly silence again. There was a sense of pressure as though a storm was brewing. Supreme Heaven did not move and did not seem to hear him. Zhou Xuanji hesitated. Should he shout again? At this moment, a pair of golden eyes appeared in front of him, staring at him coldly. Zhou Xuanji immediately took out the Master Emperor door and said, "Its owner said that you would be able to recognize this door." The golden eye didn't reply. It continued to stare at him, not even looking at the main Emperor's door. Zhou Xuanji's heart jolted. Could it be that the First Lord's spirit had tricked him? After a long while, the voice of the boundless heavens resounded, "How about giving this door to me?" Zhou Xuanji said hesitantly, "This might be the Death Gate." "I know. Do as you wish." The golden eye burst forth with resplendent golden light and directly put away the main Emperor door. Then, the golden eye disappeared. Zhou Xuanji was stunned. "That's it? Why won't you let us go?" Zhou Xuanji frowned again. He could only wait. The primogenitor spirit was once sealed in the Master Emperor's gate by him. Now, it could be said that it had left him and fallen into the hands of the boundless heavens. Zhou Xuanji suddenly felt relaxed. He finally got rid of this hot potato. The white dragon came over and said, "Let's escape. The barrier around us has disappeared." Disappeared? Zhou Xuanji turned around and saw the golden bolts of lightning dissipating at a speed visible to the naked eye. Seeing this, Zhou Xuanji immediately flew toward the horizon. If the boundless heavens suddenly changed its mind, it would be bad. The white dragon quickly followed behind him. After they were far away from the boundless heavens, the white dragon suddenly attached itself to Zhou Xuanji's back and brought him out of this realm. Zhou Xuanji's body trembled. The indescribable space-time tremor made his body extremely uncomfortable. It was hard to imagine how sturdy the space-time boundary here was. Even he, who was at the eternal realm, felt uncomfortable, let alone other living beings. The discomfort soon ended. Zhou Xuanji's vision blurred. The next second, a vast, green land appeared before his eyes. He was falling from the sky and smashing toward the ground. There was still a flight restriction here. The white dragon was gone. Zhou Xuanji quickly adjusted his posture. He descended faster and faster. Boom! He landed on the peak of a huge mountain that was tens of thousands of meters tall. His feet stepped on the mountain peak, causing it to crack open, and countless cracks extended downwards. Next, a deafening explosion occurred. The entire towering mountain was pulverized. Zhou Xuanji fell down with the stone rain. He landed on a pile of rocks, safe and sound. He looked up in all directions, trying to find the white dragon, but he could not sense its aura. Strange? Why did it disappear? Could it be that something happened just now and it abandoned me ahead of time? Zhou Xuanji thought with a frown. He dashed toward a direction. The white dragon was unfathomable. It would surely find him. Rather than being confused, it was better to look for serendipity nearby. In a pale space, the Ancestor Lord's spirit hovered. A pair of golden eyes was in front of it. Both sides were silent. No one broke the silence. Boom! A bolt of red lightning suddenly struck down and landed between the two of them. The boundless heaven's voice came, "Do you really not have anything to say to me?" The Ancestor Lord's spirit sighed, "I'm already in this state. What else is there to say? You owe me and you intend to brush it off like this? Do you believe that I will crush your remnant soul?" The boundless heaven's voice came again. Its tone was filled with extreme hatred and anger. The Ancestor Lord's spirit was silent. The golden eyes that represented the boundless heavens narrowed suddenly. Boom! A horrifying golden ocean swept over and engulfed the Ancestor Lord's spirit. The Ancestor Lord's spirit was like a candle flame in a violent gale that could be extinguished at any moment. "You want to kill your teacher?" the Ancestor Lord's spirit asked with gritted teeth. "Tell me, where is my sovereign's serendipity?" the Ancestor Lord's spirit roared with a low voice. The Ancestor Lord's spirit mocked. "Your sovereign's serendipity? Wasn't it given to you by me?" The Ancestor Lord's spirit did not reply. The golden eyes continued to stare at it with hatred. "It has already turned into a sword. I have been sealed for countless years and do not know where it is. You have to find it yourself," the Ancestor Lord's spirit said. "A sword?" The Ancestor Lord frowned. Not to mention the endless universe, there were countless swords in the eternal divine gate. How could he find the sovereign's serendipity? His first reaction was that he was fooled. "You should know about the little fellow from before. That's why you didn't kill it. It is also searching for that sword. It might represent one of your senior brothers or that existence that cannot be recognized. Whoever finds that sword will be able to grasp the sovereign's serendipity and regain control of everything," the Ancestor Lord's spirit said. The Ancestor Lord's spirit's eyes flashed. "The gate of death has fallen into the gate of life. I hope that you can combine them and purify all the heart demon imprints in the gate of death." Hearing this, the Ancestor Lord looked up and said, "Do you know what the consequences of doing this will be?" Chapter 1075. Fortune and misfortune go hand in hand. If you want to achieve a higher position, you must bear all of this. The Ancestor Lord's spirit's voice came again, which displeased Supreme Heaven. He mocked, "You're always like this, trying to shirk your responsibilities. You're the Ancestor Lord of eternal glory indeed." The Ancestor Lord's spirit was silent. At this moment, The pair of golden eyes of the supreme firmament suddenly shot out two beams of golden light, directly smashing the main emperor door into pieces. Zhou Xuanji walked slowly in the majestic forest. It had been 6 hours since he came to this world. He did not find an artifact with a spirit ocean, which made him frustrated. Could it be that those artifacts belonged to Supreme Heaven's world? If he were to meditate and cultivate bitterly, it would be too unbearable. Zhou Xuanji thought as he walked forward. He wanted to find a place to sit down and cultivate for a while. He could not keep running around. At this moment, he suddenly sensed a familiar aura. Although it was faint, he still sensed it. Gu Juejiu. That guy came to the Eternal God Gate long ago, and he encountered him in this world. Zhou Xuanji hesitated a little and decided to talk to Gu Juejiu. Although the two had a blood feud, they got to know each other after a fight. They were both endless overlords, so they could talk. Half an hour later, Zhou Xuanji found Gu Juejiu beside a massive lake. Gu Juejiu was sitting facing the lake. Strands of visible heat surrounded his body, and the lake water before him was boiling. Zhou Xuanji walked toward him slowly without hiding his aura. "I thought you were not coming?" Gu Juejiu asked with his back facing him. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, "I was too careful. The entire endless universe is attracted by the Eternal God Gate. Even if I don't come, I can't change anything." He came to Gu Juejiu's back, about 10 meters away. Sensing Gu Juejiu's horrifying aura, he was shocked in his heart. How many years has it been? This guy has grown so much more powerful? It seems like he has already attained the eternal realm. Zhou Xuanji was terrified. If he came later, wouldn't Gu Juejiu be much more powerful than him? At that time, Western Infinity would surely make a comeback and attack the Sword Emperor Divine Court. "Are you curious about how I became so strong?" Gu Juejiu asked. Zhou Xuanji did not feel awkward and asked, "I just came here. It seems that every realm is different. I encountered the supreme firmament in the upper realm and almost died. The opportunity there was seized by the supreme firmament." Gu Juejiu suddenly turned his head. He was surprised and asked, "Supreme firmament? The legendary little disciple of the founding master?" Zhou Xuanji nodded. He did not expect Gu Juejiu to have heard of it. It seemed like the Western Limitless had a very deep foundation, being able to come into contact with the history of the limitless universe. Gu Juejiu frowned and murmured, "Luckily, I didn't go up, or I would have died." Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said with a smile, "I won't die. Boundless Heaven's hobby is different." He briefly described what had happened before. As for the White Dragon, he did not mention a word about it. After hearing this, Gu Juejiu sighed and said, "As expected of the ancient sages, they are broad-minded." Zhou Xuanji rolled his eyes. He really knew how to boast. Did this guy think that the supreme firmament could hear him? "The sovereign's serendipity that I mentioned before, are you willing to go with me?" Gu Juejiu glanced at Zhou Xuanji and asked indifferently. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow. It seemed like this guy did not have the confidence to obtain the sovereign's serendipity alone. Since he was already here, he might as well cooperate with him. "Okay, you already have a clue?" Zhou Xuanji asked. Gu Juejiu got up immediately with a proud smile. "I found it 30 years ago. I covered the area, and no one can find it." "Since you found it, why didn't you obtain the sovereign serendipity?" Zhou Xuanji asked curiously. "There must be danger." Gu Juejiu said helplessly, "The sovereign serendipity is protected by a stone statue. If you just get close, it will not alarm the stone statue. But the sovereign serendipity is inside the stone statue. Once you touch it or the sovereign serendipity, the stone statue will revive. If I was not careful enough and tried to use my clone, I might have been destroyed." At the mention of this matter, he revealed a look of lingering fear. "So that's it. Bring me to see it," Zhou Xuanji said straightforwardly. But the two moved out immediately. Along the way, Gu Juejiu began to talk about his encounters over the years. It turned out that he was not in this realm from the beginning. He explored 9 realms in total and was surrounded by danger. Finally, he obtained eternity with a gem that contained eternal will. He called it the Eternity Gem. The Eternity Gem was formed by the will left behind by the previous eternal beings. Although it did not contain massive power, it could guide living beings to the eternal realm. Gu Juejiao's cultivation was already outstanding. With just a little guidance, he could soar into the sky. Zhou Xuanji immediately remembered it. If he could get a few Eternity Gems, the Sword Emperor Divine Court would soar. Don't even think about it. After so many years, I've only found one, Gu Juejiao said. He had also thought about Zhou Xuanji's idea. 12 hours later, the two stopped on a cliff. Below them was a boundless wasteland. At the end of the horizon was a towering tree that connected the sky and the earth. The tree's leaves were green, and many flying beasts were circling it. The beasts that could not be affected by the flight restriction were definitely not simple. Seems like someone else found it, Zhou Xuanji said with a faint smile. Following his gaze, a white-robed man was walking on the wasteland to the east. Zhou Xuanji noticed the sword in the white-robed man's hand. Could he be the one that the white dragon was looking for? There were many people who used swords. Moreover, it was in a scabbard. He was not sure if it was a saber or a sword. Gu Juejiao frowned and said, "Let's use our duplicates first." After that, he sent out a duplicate. Zhou Xuanji also sent out a duplicate. The two duplicates immediately jumped off the cliff and ran toward the towering tree that was as massive as the Creation God Mountain. Once they moved, the white-robed man noticed them too. The white-robed man frowned. He did not expect there to be other living beings nearby. And they were all eternal beings. He immediately drew his saber. His saber was perfectly straight and looked like a sword. He did not attack Zhou Xuanji or Gu Juejiao but sped up toward the towering tree. The three began to compete in speed. Zhou Xuanji entered godly blankness straightaway. He turned into a stream of purple light and dashed forward, trying to overtake the white-robed man. At this moment, the white-robed man's body suddenly spun and turned into a horizontal tornado. He wreaked havoc and left a long ravine along the way. Gu Juejiao's body burned with a flame aura as he sped up continuously. The three of them created such a huge commotion that the flying beasts swooped down toward them. All sorts of strange screeches resounded across the sky. Countless saber chi shot out from the tornado formed by the white-robed man wantonly. The flying beasts' blood splattered everywhere, and some were crushed into minced meat on the spot. It was extremely domineering. Chapter 1076. Zhou Xuanji relied on godly forlorn mode, and no beast could touch him. He did not fly too quickly but followed Gu Juejiao's clone. Only Gu Juejiao knew where the sovereign serendipity was after all. The towering tree in front of them was massive. As they got closer, they could sense how majestic the tree was. It was like looking up to a great mountain. Although Gu Juejiao was just a clone, he was very powerful and was not stopped at all. The white